Welcome back to another Fridays with Forrest. Everybody really enjoyed the last story, so I wanted to tell you another story. This is one of my favorite stories, one of my favorite experiences, because it is so informative, and it actually reveals how both timeline therapy and Buddhist psychology and the process of Om Japa in the chakras, how all of these things actually work inside of us. So it's very revealing. And I bet there's a number of you that have had a similar experience. So let's get into it. This happened in my first year of being a postulant monk. And I felt very enclosed. There were a lot of rules, which I wasn't used to. I was used to having more independence and freedom, and it was very authoritarian. And it kind of felt like the walls were closing in on me a little bit. And I started to get a little bit of depression. And the way that I would always get depression in my childhood was I would start to get lonely. So I'd feel this loneliness come over me, and it would really deepen into this wonderful depression. And so I felt this coming over me, and I had already beaten this in high school. In high school, I was horribly depressed. I was really depressed about being in high school and the kids that were in high school. I was very awkward. I was very shy. And so, of course, I fell into a lot of loneliness and depression. So I kind of threw all of that out because I embraced a spiritual lifestyle, and I stopped caring about all of it, right? And that totally relieved all of it. So I'd already beaten it once. And then it started happening in the ashram. Are you kidding me? I came to a spiritual place. It's supposed to be easier. And here I am getting more psychological problems. This is nuts. I can't stand this. And I got angry. I got angry. Are you kidding? I beat this thing once already. What is this doing here in my life? I got angry with myself. And I got so angry that I said to myself, you want to get depressed? Fine, let's get depressed. And that's exactly what I did. I just kind of fell into the depression. I allowed, instead of, pulling away and resisting and pushing away and pushing away and all these manipulative actions. Instead of doing all of that, I just fell into the depression. And it really felt as if I was in a pond and I was just going down deeper and deeper and deeper into the muck. And you want to do this? Okay, we're going to do this. And I just let myself fall and fall and fall into this really great depression, right? And it really felt like I was going down into the darkness. And down at the very bottom, because I embraced the emotion purely, down at the bottom, I had no idea. I was just mad and I was over it. I was totally over the depression. I was totally over the loneliness, and I just sank right into those feelings, and I felt them to their fullest. And I was not waiting for this to happen. It completely shocked me. But I fell all the way down to the bottom of those feelings, and it was like a light emerged in the darkness, and the darkness completely evaporated. And it reminded me of these stories of the lotus blooming from the dirtiest pond, because that's exactly how it seemed, that this white lotus of light had suddenly appeared inside of me, and the depression completely evaporated. Now, in my life, I've gotten sad, and in my life, I've gotten little bouts of I'm grumpy, or depressed or whatever. But it always evaporates quickly. It never sticks on me, and I have never, ever felt lonely since that day. Never. It was completely gone and never returned to my psychology. Amazing. Now, why did that work? Now, I want to tell you a story, and it's really not my story to tell. So I have a training, it's called the Big Bliss Training. And Kevin is on that training. So I'm so grateful for him that he sat there and allowed me to demonstrate the progression of the roll-up of consciousness back into the brain. And we're going to talk more about that because I want to clear up exactly what the roll-up is, because I want to make it simple and easy to grasp. Okay? But he demonstrated that, and I told this story to him once. Or maybe he told me his story, and then I'm like, oh my God, let me tell you this story. He told me that he would work with professionals who were going through very, very difficult situations in law enforcement. So you work in law enforcement, and you see everything, and it can be traumatic. You go to a house, somebody's beating somebody else up, and you're sitting there and you have to get into the meat of it and the mess and everything, and people are shouting at each other and people are shouting at you, and it's a crazy, crazy job to have. It can be very, very traumatic. It can be like going to war. It can lead to post-traumatic stress disorder. And he would sit with these law enforcement personnel, and he would say, okay, we're going to stay on the phone, and we're going to get through this, and it's going to transform. And I want you to sit with it, and I'm going to sit with you as you sit with it, and we're going to watch it transform. All right? So they'd sit there and he'd say, okay, what do you feel? Well, I feel frustrated. All right, sit with your frustration. And they would go through it, and they would go through it, and they would go through it. Okay, what do you feel now? Well, I feel pissed off. Good. Feel pissed off. Let's sit with it. And they would sit with that pissed off feeling, right? Okay, how do you feel now? I'm angry. I'm really angry. Okay, let's sit with that. Let's just sit with that anger, right? All the things that have ever happened to you, let's sit with that anger. And they would sit with it. And then, how do you feel now? Well, I feel incredibly sad. So you would sit with that sadness. And then the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And you would sit with all of those, and at some point, because they sat with every single negative emotion, it would automatically transform. And it would say, what do you feel now? And I say, oh my God, I feel love. I feel love. It would transform every single time. And this is what the Buddhists are so good at in their psychology, that they say everything will transform into love if you sit with it. So I really want to bring Kevin on, and I want him to tell his story about this, because it'll be, you'll hear it from him, and it's, I don't know, it's more powerful when you hear it directly from him. But that, in a nutshell, is his story. And it's the same process as timeline therapy. It's the same process as Buddhist psychology, where you just sit with the feeling. He's using it very, very well, and he's tracking the progress and noticing that it transforms into love. And it's just magical. Now, why doesn't that happen to us normally? Why don't we just sit, I've been feeling this emotion, this particular emotion for years. Why isn't it transforming? Well, it might someday, but you're not concentrating on it enough that it resolves automatically. You understand? It takes a very deep embrace. You really have to embrace it. And these are not, the people that Kevin worked with, these are not people that go out and look for spiritual experiences day after day. So these are normal, hardworking, very grounded individuals, and they just embraced the emotion, and it eventually transformed. But they had to have somebody there as the coach, as the witness, to make sure that they actually sat through all of it. Because it's very uncomfortable in the middle. In the middle, it's like, I don't know if I want to keep sitting with this. I want to go run away over here or run away over there or distract myself in some kind of way. But if you sit with it, it will transform. And why doesn't it happen normally? Well, we have an emotion. And the emotion, I believe, all negative emotions are tied to the doom center, the right amygdala. Now, the positive emotions are in the left amygdala, right? So all negative emotions, according to Forrest, are tied to the right amygdala. And the story of how that happened, that's the words, and that's in the left hippocampus. So those are two different parts of the brain. And when you mix the two, we mix our story, and we don't sit with the emotion, we sit with the story. And we say, why did this happen to me? How could this happen to me? How could he do this to me? How could they say that about me? And we get locked in the story, and the story's in the left brain. And there's no way to process the emotion when you are stuck in the story. It's all knotted up. It's the Gordian knot, and you can't cut it. You cannot unravel that story by thinking, why this happened to me. It's a dead end. But if you go purely into the emotion and sit with the emotion long enough, it will automatically transform. Doesn't that blow your mind? Oh my goodness. Now, in timeline therapy, so that process, Kevin told me it usually took about 2 to 2.5 hours to go through that with one person. So very, very long form. Now, in timeline therapy, we have a short form. I'm going to use how your memory stores time, your timeline, right? Whether it's this way, however you store it, all right? And we float up above it, and we float before the beginning of the story. And we look towards now, and that's the magic moment. We look towards now, and the negative emotion evaporates. Why does it evaporate? Because we go before the story. We do not unravel it from the story. It's nearly impossible. If we do resolve something by resolving the story, it's because we let go of the story, and then we let go of the negative emotion. You have to let go of the story, and you have to sit with the negative emotion, either in timeline therapy or just sitting with it in a very Buddhistic acceptance kind of way, a very right-brained, just hold space for it. Very right-brained, right? Or into the negative emotion. And my guru, Ashokji, he told me this is the real Kriya Yoga. He said, when you encounter an emotion, you're walking through your day and something happens in your heart or in your gut, or you feel fear or jealousy down here, or you feel heartache up here, whatever happens, if you feel that negative emotion and you mentally into that feeling, right? If I feel it here, I down here. If I feel it here, I right here. Whatever, I can all over, right? It doesn't matter. I just throughout my day, and I clean myself out throughout the day. He told me this is the real Kriya Yoga. I was like, wow, really? Not all those hours in meditation. It's the all day meditation, right? That's the real Kriya Yoga. The one that washes you out all day. That's the one. And so that experience that I had, it proved to me that at the bottom of all the negativity in my life, there was this light, right? Because I got past the right amygdala and I encountered some of the left. And this is the natural progression of the enlightenment pathway in the brain, all right? So fascinating. I hope it makes some sense to you. I hope that you try it out a little bit in your life and see what happens. See how things transform when you let go of the story. The story's over there, whatever, I don't care. I'm just going to sit with the negative emotion and see what happens. Allow space for it. Watch it. like a floating cloud in your heart or in your gut or wherever you encounter it. Maybe throw some ohms into it. See what happens. Walk through your day and something comes up and you ohm into it. And see it how it just kind of evaporates, dissipates, and you're like, oh my God, I can think straight again. I'm not caught up in my stuff again. I can think straight. I can make everything easy. Now, life is not always easy, but we can make it easier. Isn't that wonderful? So I hope that's the case for you. I hope that you love this. And if you did, be sure to hit that bell down below so I can see you all.